Hello and welcome to another edition of the C Squared Podcast. This is your host, Curtis, my co-host, Aliyah, and we're here today with Monica Strut, who was an Australian band coach slash singer slash writer slash other stuff that I'm probably forgetting. But we're here with Monica today. She's been on the podcast before. She's also done countless lives with me, done lots of other things with me in the past. But she's here, and first thing I want to say is welcome, Monica, and thank you for coming on.
Hey, welcome. Thank you guys for having me. It's so good to chat to you again.
Awesome. So we're going to turn the questions over to Aliyah because on these type of episodes, Aliyah is the ringleader. So
yeah, excellent. I will ringlead, and I will ask you, Monica, for anyone who is listening who may not be familiar with who you are, can you give us a brief summary of who you are and what you do and what you're about?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a musician first and foremost. I play in a band called The Last Martyr, who we're about to release our next EP tomorrow, which is very exciting. We're kind of like a melodic rock metal band with nu metal influences. So we've been together for a couple of years, and that's kind of like the main thing that I like to lead with, because I'm also a band coach. So I also help musicians and music industry pros kind of make a business out of music, because I found that there aren't that many resources out there. There's a handful of good podcasts, obviously C Squared included, and there's a big gap of information out there when it comes to that knowledge. So I've been doing that for a few years and I absolutely love it. Before that, I was a music journalist for about 7 years. That's how I gained a lot of the knowledge that I have now. But at the moment, it's musician and band coach.
Excellent. So yeah, you mentioned The Last Martyr being your big thing. And we are sort of celebrating today. Your EP is coming out Friday of this week when we're recording this right now. So I wanted to just ask what was your promotion strategy for this EP?
Oh yeah, well, big question, but I'll try and summarize it as much as I can. Well, I mean, the first thing that I think that we really led with this EP is we released a lot of singles. And that is something that I so firmly believe in because, as you know, everyone's streaming predominantly on Spotify or other streaming services. So having a lot of singles was really such a core part of this campaign. We released the first single about called Like a Ghost, which Curtis actually worked on back in 2019, and we've kind of done a revised, remastered version for the EP. So it started way back when, but then 2020 hit and we had this massive gap and we recorded the rest of the EP. Then Hindsight came out, and that was kind of our relaunch, our rebrand. And so the second strategy, aside from a lot of singles, was we really had the opportunity because of 2020 to think about, okay, how do we want to present ourselves to the world? How does the music look visually? And really craft the branding and the aesthetic and the messaging and the values around that, and made sure that it was infused in every single release that we did. So when Hindsight came out of the gate, I think it kind of shocked a lot of people because it was a little bit different to what we'd done in the past, but it had extremely strong branding. And I did the PR for that one on the Australian end, and Curtis helped with that as well. And Curtis can vouch for that particular single did so well. Like it got like over 40 media placements in the end, which was huge. We're like the Triple J on Earth feature artist, rotation on Triple J, which is like the biggest radio station here for like up and coming music. Well, not just up and coming music, it's like a national radio station. So yeah, and I really think a lot of it's to do with like the strong branding that we had. So yeah, that's kind of the core components, I think, which like came into this release.
What do you think was the most important lesson you learned from this campaign?
Patience. I mean, last year was really hard as a musician yourself, like I'm sure you understand, like holding on to music and not having people hear it is so frustrating because you just want to put it out into the world. And, you know, that's part of the reason why I do what I do, is because I, like, as a coach, the coach in me is like, no, like, let's plan this out properly. But the musician in me totally understands. And, you know, with all of us being in quarantine and having the lockdowns, and we had the strictest lockdowns in the world here in Melbourne, we couldn't leave our house. There was a lot of thinking time, and the doubts started to roll in. Like, am I getting too, like, quote unquote, like, old to make it in the music industry? You know, all the momentum that we built with Like a Ghost back in 2019, is that going to dissipate? We start all over again. So there was a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety, but ultimately what I realized is that everything happens in divine timing. Everything worked out the way that it was meant to work out in the grand scheme of things. And so, as hard as it was, and there were definitely like a lot of low points, I'm so glad that we ended up having that year to kind of really, really plan, because I think that it made it for a more successful release in the long run, and a more enjoyable one.
Yeah. Curtis, go ahead.
I want to fight for a second, so let's fight, Monica. So let's do some differing opinions here. So let's do it. I don't mind. Well, not fight, but we can discuss here. So you did a lot of singles leading up to the release. I'm really not a fan of that strategy. I think it worked in your case, but can you kind of go over why you wanted to do the singles, like a long stretch of singles versus just a couple and then releasing?
Yeah, well, like, ultimately, like, with every single, you get to do like another PR campaign, right? So it was like every single had its own PR campaign, and that can be expensive for a lot of artists, but it wasn't expensive for me because, you know, I come from like a media background, and also, you know, had Curtis in my pocket as well to rely on. So that was like, I'm extremely, like, we're like, the whole band's extremely grateful for that. So financially, like, it wasn't as big of a risk as maybe it would have been for other bands. So I thought, well, why not? Because, you know, it's like one of the biggest banes of like any artist's existence, or any company's existence. Anyone who uses social media is like thinking of stuff to post. And so having singles, and constantly, like, either leading up to a single or in the promotion phase of a single, really helped us in a time where we couldn't play live shows here in Australia. So there wasn't really much going on for bands aside from releasing music for a lot of this year. So that was really why the strategy worked for us, because, you know, unlike, I think shows went back a little earlier, and, you know, people got the vaccination earlier in like other countries, whereas Australia, like, the government kind of like fucked it up, and we didn't get vaccinated. Like, the rollout didn't really happen until the last couple of months. So yeah, otherwise we would have had nothing to talk about, I think. So that's one of the reasons. And we did have a plan in terms of next year and how we would, I mean, there's one song on the EP which hasn't come out as a single. It's called Out of Time, and then we have a revised version of Like a Ghost on there, so that's something that people haven't heard in that way before. It's got like new vocal parts and everything. It's not just remastered, so hopefully there's something new. It's only a digital release as well, so it's a little bit like less pressure, I feel, but we definitely want to do vinyl next year when there's the demand for it. And we really want to do like a remix vinyl. So that will have an additional bonus track as well as remixes of all the songs. If that goes ahead, we'll see how we go with, like, you know, supply and demand, and if people want that.
Nice. Well, let's say that you didn't have the Curtis for help, or you didn't have your media background. Do you think it would still be smart for a band to do it? Because that would have probably been a few $1,000s, I would think, to do that. Would it have been worth it in your case, or no?
I think yes. I do think yes, because, I mean, in my experience with singles especially, nothing is more powerful, and you guys can probably attest to this as well. There's like, nothing's more powerful than a single and a video. Like, people can like drop EPs and it goes down like really well with like the media, and you get all these reviews and stuff like that because people really rarely review singles. But I think that there's something so powerful in a video clip, because it allows the band to see, it allows the fans or the followers or potential fans and followers to see like who you guys are as artists, because sometimes how someone can sound is completely different to how they look, and how they look and the art that goes around the sound can completely change your perception. So I still think, like, yeah, it's like expensive, but I think like the more you scrimp and save at the start of your career, the longer it's going to take to get to what you want.
Yeah. I really feel like in your guys' situation that strategy, I just agree with Curtis that it worked out really well. And I think that if you're gonna do a strategy like that, that was the way to do it. Because yeah, go ahead.
they gotta have good songs.
Yeah, of
That-
course. Of
Well,
course.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
they
would
gotta
say
have-
anything in music promotion
Mhm.
comes after having good songs. Because if you
Yeah.
don't have good songs, it doesn't matter what you put behind it. It's not going to go anywhere.
Totally.
So, but yeah, I think that it's a good strategy. I think it's something that bands can look into. And I remember what I wanted to say now. I know some people come from the school of thought about YouTube, that it's a search engine versus social media being share platforms. And so therefore it's not as powerful, but I think that's a little bit misguided. I think that they're just different tools, and it's super powerful to have a search engine like YouTube where people can look up your band name and then they see a video. I don't know. What's your take on that thought?
I like to think of YouTube as kind of like an online portfolio. It's not really like I definitely agree that it's a search engine, but I think where a lot of people go wrong is they think of it as like a community building platform. But if you want to build a community on YouTube specifically, you have to put so much time into it. You need to be posting like 2 to 3 videos a week and like be consciously trying to build that. And that's probably going to take away your attention from all the other social channels. If you're a solo artist or something like that, that could potentially be like a really good strategy. But yeah, like I personally use it as more of a portfolio. So we just have like our best videos there. We use it as like a hosting platform, like doing PR and stuff like that, and like for our website and everything. And but yeah, I like at the same time, YouTube ads are like really, really inexpensive ads to do. So I found that YouTube ads are actually like my favorite ads to do at the moment. I haven't done that many personally. I've done like a couple, but like we're definitely going to be doing more. And I've had like success with like clients doing that. So I don't know. I hope that sort of answers your question.
Oh yeah, and this one wasn't on the agenda actually. Sorry, I just kind of took us off the path, but I was just curious.
There's a lot of like YouTube's an interesting one because there was a point like a couple of years ago where it was just like the biggest social media platform. I remember like waking up every day and like YouTube was where I would like hang out. Now I barely watch YouTube personally. I'm definitely like on the TikTok train. So it can be hard to place like where YouTube sits in like the whole mix of things, I think.
Yeah, it probably depends on genre and such as well.
Totally.
What do you think was the most exciting development that occurred during your campaign?
Well, we actually, I don't know if I should say it because it hasn't come out yet. Okay, I won't. It was an interview that we got with like a pretty big publication, but it hasn't come out. So I'll not say anything just in case. I think it was, actually, I know what it is. So we released Hindsight, the first relaunch single this year back in April. And then, that went really well. But it kept going. Like it was just like the single just kept going for like a lot of months. And so at the end of June, we found out that we were the Unearthed, Triple J Unearthed feature artist. Which they have only one Unearthed feature artist a week, and we were it for that week. And we'd released, that was like our first single in forever. And so that was really interesting because that was like 3 months later, right? And it was like, it was still going and hitting these milestones. And I think that was an important lesson because of the success of that single and there was still mileage, then we pushed back the release of the second single because we didn't want to kind of cut off our nose to spite our face. We didn't want to like, screech that to a halt. We wanted to, okay, well, let's just go with it. So I think learning to be flexible and just being amazed like that single just kept going.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a great single, so I'm not surprised that it took off.
Oh, thank you.
Curtis, do you have something on that? You're muted.
No, I think I'm good on that. I mean, she did a single, 2 singles that were really good. Did a third one recently.
The whole EP is really solid, I have to say.
Thank you. Yes, I sent you guys the link.
Yeah, so thank you for that.
What I was going to say, actually, now I thought of a follow-up question. Now that you said that, so in your case, now maybe you don't agree with me, but I'm just spitballing here. I thought you released your best song first. Was that intentional?
Well,
This
yeah.
This is my opinion. Keep in mind.
Yeah, I mean, I think you should always lead with the best song, but it's like, how do you define the best song? Because
Exactly.
in one hand, you know, we thought Out of Time, the song that hasn't been released as a single, we thought that one was like not the weakest, but we didn't think that was single like material. Like if there was any song that we weren't going to release as a single, it would have been that one. And we still love it, of course. But then in the reviews that we've had, both like two of the reviews, the big reviews that we've had so far that have come out this week, have said that that's our best song. And so it's really, really interesting. And I think that song is like, it's very different. It starts off like, if you guys remember, like it starts off with more like a proggy kind of like funky guitar at the start before launching into like the heavy stuff. And it's really, really paired back in the verse. So I think it's like also like, how do you want to present yourself? Like if we'd had led with that song, it may have confused people, but hindsight, it's a pretty straightforward rock song. It was also the first song of the EP, like that we recorded with the purpose of the EP. So it felt right. But collectively, we actually think our latest single, Freaking Out, is our best song. And unfortunately, because of like lockdowns, we didn't get to do a proper video, but we still plan to do maybe like a live video early next year before our next run of shows. So yeah, I don't know. It's like, it's so hard to pick, but I think you have to just try to trust your gut instinct, I think, with those sorts of things.
Yeah,
Agreed.
it's so hard picking singles.
Yeah.
How many, never mind. Aliyah, go ahead. I'm going to be quiet.
I was going to say, we had a really hard time picking the singles for our CD because the song that we thought is our best song is also the one that's like requires the most patience to get into. And so it's like probably not good for a single. So we had to pick something else based on other factors.
Yeah. It's so hard. Like it is really hard. Like I think Freaking Out, the one that we like the best, is probably one of the longest songs as well. And like the band coach in me is like, nope, just pick like the shortest song where the chorus comes in like the earliest, like that should be a single, but like it's not always that formula too. So
right. Well, speaking of your band coaching, why don't we talk a little bit about the Being in a Band podcast and academy, and when you think bands are ready for that service of band coaching?
Yeah, well, I think bands can be ready for the podcast anytime. So the way that I have kind of gone about the podcast is, and I get a feedback about this all the time, is it's very digestible. It's very relaxed. I don't use a lot of like marketing terminology necessarily. Like I hate those podcasts which are just like, you know, going on about funnels and you have to like find your leads. Like, fuck off, this is the music industry. So like I try and just keep it like very relatable and easy for musicians, because the purpose of listening to this podcast is to learn about marketing and promo and branding and mindset and stuff like that. So I want to make it accessible. Not that I dumb it down, but like I just talk how I would just talk to someone if I was just at a pub, like explaining it or whatever. And then in terms of the academy, it's really for people at all levels. So we have like full-time musicians in there. We have bands that have like full teams, so management, booking agent, labels, and we also have independent artists that are just getting started, sort of thing. So there's musicians at all levels in there, but the only thing I would say is you definitely have to have a baseline knowledge of social media before you get in there. And you have to be kind of open to the fact that the whole of this is like teaching you how to be successful on and offline, but like mostly online. So if you're not someone who's like necessarily like open to like new school, like new world music industry, I don't spend any time trying to convince you that what I'm teaching is what you have to do. I'm just like, this is what you have to do. So you definitely have to be open, and you have to be just willing to put in the work, like whether it's my course or whether it's like someone else's course. It's like the differentiating factor of whether you will get stuff out of it or not is really your willingness to put in the work. Because yeah, I've worked with bands for like even like 6-month programs, and they just weren't willing to like put in the work. They said that they were, but they actually weren't, because they weren't listening to what I was saying. And it's like, great, you've just wasted like $3,000. So
And
I'm
your
just,
time and energy.
and my time, yeah. And like some people say, oh, you get paid regardless. Well, that's like, it's not really why I do it. Like I get so attached to my bands, and I want them to succeed. I mean, there's also the route of like, obviously a band success reflects on my business and stuff, but like I don't even really think of it that way. It's just like I'm like, if I want to have fun with like the business and everything like that, I don't want to just like clock in and clock out, or else I just have a day job. So yeah, it's just all about the time and work. But honestly, it's like the best community. It came out of the lockdowns, and it came out of like 2020 and like the pandemic and stuff. And it was just this idea that I had. And my business coach at the time was like, oh, this is really random. And we were about to wrap up working together, and we had like 2 weeks left. And I'm like, I'm going to like put this together. And it has been like such a joy in my life. Like I just can't believe the people that are a part of it and how much fun it's been. So it's a cool community.
Nice. You mentioned social media almost being like a prerequisite for joining this, but a lot of bands still really struggle with social media. Are there any resources you recommend for bands to use to get better at social media?
Yeah, I mean, I think starting with the podcast is definitely a good place to start. And just I think a lot of it is not necessarily about like lacking skills. It's about like the overwhelm about trying something new. So even for me, like I knew how important TikTok was starting to become this year, especially for bands. But I was on TikTok last year, but I couldn't really marry up how it was going to work and how musicians and bands could use it. And a lot of it can just be like the intimidation of trying something new. So I think like the more you can listen to podcasts and just normalize social media, and you'll just absorb like almost by osmosis, even if you don't remember, the exact things that I'm saying or another podcast is saying. It'll just, one day you'll wake up and you'll have all this knowledge, and you'll forget that you didn't know that once upon a time. So I think just like, just like getting curious, getting interested, and remembering that like ultimately there's no one way of doing things as well. So if something really doesn't sit right and you're just like, fuck TikTok, I don't want to like use that platform at all, I absolutely hate it, then don't. I'm such a believer in just don't, because you're going to put out shit content if you're not enjoying it. So just concentrate on platforms that you do enjoy. So I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
I want to ask a question. So this is kind of related to the academy, kind of not. I hope Monica knows where I'm going with this. Have you ever seen anybody try to do silly out of the box strategies instead of using the tried and true methods? If you know what I'm talking about. I think you do. You're going to remember?
Not anyone that's come through the academy, but I do remember. I can see, because I've had a free Facebook community for years as well. So I see, and I pay like close attention to what everyone's doing in that too. So like, for example, trying to do, say, like a billboard instead of.
There we go. That's exactly.
Yeah. You were thinking of, doing like, wanting to like do a billboard in like Times Square or some shit, instead of like it's just a waste of money, because it's just
vanity.
It's just vanity. It's so untargeted. And it's like, who the fuck does billboards anymore except for fashion labels or like corporate companies and like
alcohol companies?
Yeah, exactly. Like
universal things.
Yeah, yes, universal things, exactly. And like people with like a lot of money to spend, because it's just like, I feel like billboards and like when you do advertising on like the sides of buses and stuff, it's more to build hype as opposed to like direct marketing strategy. It's more as like a cherry on top of like everything that you're doing that's a bit more targeted.
I agree. And if anybody's curious, this band in question spent money on a billboard but would not spend it on marketing, PR, or advertising. So.
And how much is a billboard? I'm curious. Is it like
well, when I checked, and I don't know how much it is where they are at, so it could be different and it could be a lot less. But when I looked, it was like something like $2,000 or $3,000.
Oh, okay. So that's the cost of like a good video.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
A
But-
PR campaign plus marketing plus like the okay video.
But for all we know, they got a sweet deal and it was like $50. I don't know, but
Maybe they
True,
knew
true.
somebody who owned the sign.
Yeah.
I don't know.
exactly. That could be the case too. I don't know, but I'm just saying, if you're in general thinking about getting a billboard, do not get a fucking billboard. Sorry,
Yeah.
Aliyah. Go ahead. I just had
No,
to
it's fine. I was gonna ask a question that was kind of a perfect segue, but we got taken off the course, so I'll bring it back and ask about TikTok. Do you think it's really appropriate for bands of all genres?
That's a good one. I think, I mean, I predominantly work with rock and metal bands. So this is like a question that I've had to spend a lot of time thinking about. And I recently created a TikTok and Reels masterclass, which kind of goes into more detail. But basically, it's like we all know that the TikTok audience is a younger audience, right? So I think that there are some subgenres of heavy music that lean more towards the pop side. So for example, The Last Martyr, yeah, we're a heavy band, but we have a typical verse chorus structure. The songs are designed to be catchy because that's what we like. And I feel like the audience on TikTok, like there would be an audience on TikTok for us. However, if you are like, if you're into like, if you play like maybe like black metal, or if you play
Maybe like prog.
yeah, prog is a really good example, because I feel like whilst there of course is like younger people that enjoy prog, the age range is much broader, I find. Then it may not be worth your time necessarily to put into TikTok. Now, the asterisk to that is like, unless maybe you have like a business to promote at the same time and you're a producer and you happen to play in a prog band, but you're giving all these production tips or something like that, then that can be applied to any genre. So then that kind of opens you up a little bit and you have more of a personal brand. So there are, there's always like exceptions to the rule, but I would say like if your music's accessible, if it's like has the capacity to be like mainstream, be on Spotify playlists and stuff, even if you're in a heavy band, then yeah, TikTok is definitely worth putting the time in, but not for all genres.
Yeah. Without giving away your master class, are there any tips on TikTok that you could give on this episode of our podcast?
Yes, absolutely. So if you're someone who, I mean, as I said, I was intimidated by TikTok at the start, even though I was an avid consumer creating it, was like, it seemed to take me forever to create, to think of ideas and just create. Well, first off, if you're not already a consumer of TikTok, like get amongst it. I know it's addictive. I've probably like just ruined your life right now, but do like, you have to consume the platform that you want to create on. So that's the first thing. If you're not a consumer of it, you have to become one, or maybe it's not the platform for you. And then secondly, you can actually, like any platform, you can like the videos and they're stored in like a liked videos section on your profile, which you can choose to put private if you want. I only use that function for videos that I want to rewatch, or for videos that are like ideas for videos that I want to create. So in this workshop, I went through and I have like 25 like content ideas with like 1 or 2 example videos next to it. So you can actually see, okay, well, I want to do like a time-lapse video of, say a band's playing like a festival next year. One of the ideas that we came up with in the workshop was, how cool would it be to have like a time-lapse of like the audience coming into the festival, and then you can put like, a trending song or like a hot song like in your genre, or your song over the top of it. And that's like really engaging content. And as long as you're sharing like from the perspective of like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm playing this festival. Anyway, so then I had like example videos of, actually there wasn't any example videos that I could find for that one, because that's an idea that we're just throwing around in the class, but you know what I mean? So you can actually see, okay, here's the idea and here's like 1 or 2 people that have executed it in their own way. And so now you can feel confident that you can attempt executing it in your own way as well.
I remember seeing, that just makes me think of a video I saw of Rammstein's like arena tour one time. They were showing like the field before they even started setting up. And then they did a time lapse of setting up the stage and then the crowd coming in. And it was like really, really cool to see.
Oh my gosh, I need to go find that so I can put that in the example now. But yeah, that's like, and I think like the thing with TikTok is it's really about the individual. And I think that that's why a lot of bands in particular were stuck for so long on TikTok, because a band is a collective of several individuals. So it's like, once you can learn to create content from your individual perspective and your thoughts, your feelings, your values, rather than trying to sell anything or just be like, hey, here's my new video, then that's really the difference with TikTok as opposed to any other platform.
Curtis? I see you moving to unmute and failing.
I'm trying to do it. And it's working. I'm sorry. So what about for, I'm going to get back to the silly questions again. We're going to go into TikTok. So for those people that feel that TikTok is for young people or boomers only, because it seems to be either boomers or young people, nothing really in between. That's true. Would you not agree?
Now that I think about it, there are some like cool boomers that are using it like really, really well. There's actually some cool nanas and like older people that have TikTok accounts. Like, I guess it's for everyone.
I don't know. Like, my wife's not a boomer, obviously, but she loves TikTok just to watch it. And but anyways, so for those people, so like TikTok seems to be like for people that are just into mainly consuming stuff, right? They're not really interacting as much. At least that's my viewpoint on it. You kind of even said that. So so for those people, or those bands rather, that are not really into making the short little content things on a frequent basis, would you still say that they should be using it if like they're only using it once a month, for example?
I mean, like any platform, like you can have an account, but I don't know, I think like once you get into the swing of it, it's really fun. And I feel like it should be a part of your strategy. Like, I feel like the ability to go viral on TikTok is so much higher than any other social media platform in history. So, you know, if you're interested enough to create an account and to use it once a month, I would invite you to consider utilizing it a little bit more. And I'm still like, I'm still like getting the hang of it myself and just trying to put out as much like content as I can. And it is only like once a week at this stage. But ideally, like if we're on the road, hopefully we can create more skits and like when we're together as a band. But yeah, like if you're using it once a month, I invite you to maybe just challenge yourself to start using it twice a month, because I do think that it is worth it for the reach.
Fair enough. Okay. That was all I had, Aliyah. So just so you guys both know, we got about 10 minutes left. I know we got a lot of questions still, Aliyah, but
all right, well, we'll move on.
Lightning round.
Actually, we don't have that many questions left. We wanted to move on to the topic of image, and you brought it up earlier that The Last Martyr really honed in on your aesthetic and your image for this new release. How did you do that? What methods did you use? Can you share a little bit about that process?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, my bassist, Ricky, he was really the main person in charge of orchestrating the rebrand or the image. And he really like came into the band and had a lot of ideas about how the direction that we wanted to go in, and having a new lineup, which at the time, like 2019, when we sort of shifted on this new path, we had like a new lineup, and it allowed us to really just like have a fresh start. So that really helped. And then he created we all obviously had a discussion, and then he created a vision board or a style guide sort of thing. So we actually had like colors and, different like fashion pieces and stuff that we wanted to incorporate. And it's not to say that we went out and like bought those exact things, but it was more just like, so we were all on the same page of what we wanted to look like, because there's nothing worse than, one person in the band is, dressed in like gothic aesthetic with like black paint and everything. And then the drummer is just in like a plain white t-shirt or like just like a band tee. And it just looks like a mismatch. You've really got to look like a, part of the same entity, I suppose. So yeah, a lot of that was like not even necessary of like, we must like look like this. It was about getting everyone open and on the same page. And then from there, we did like group ASOS like shopping trips. So like one of the things in 2020 that, you know, obviously we couldn't shop anywhere in person. So we would have band meetings and then just like spend some time scrolling on ASOS and like adding to the cart and sending the cart to like whatever band member. And like, it was cool because yeah, my guitarist and my drummer were just so open. They're like, we don't know nothing about fashion. You guys like tell us what to wear and we'll do it. So it made it like so easy. But I know a lot of bands that also work with stylists. And so I would like to work with a stylist next year. And this is like a really interesting topic to talk about because like, I feel like especially in heavy music, we have this perception that bands just like rock up on stage and they look how they look and it's like all by accident and there's no thought gone into it. But actually what I've discovered is, especially like following a stylist in particular that works with a lot of heavy bands, is like there's a lot more thought gone into things like live performance and things like branding and style than what you ever find out about. So yeah, like if you're a band who's like really struggling with that at the moment, start with like just putting together a short list of like bands that you like the look of, and then finding what things in common do those bands have, and putting together like a mood board and make sure everyone's just on the same page. Do a fashion trip, like a fashion like shopping meeting over Zoom, and go nuts on like ASOS or whatever website and start there.
Yeah, I find like that can work a lot like for modern clothing, but if like you're doing more stylized clothing, and you have to like know what stores to look at too, which is kind of a challenge to figure out what stores to look at sometimes. Maybe you could start with looking at like hashtags on Instagram and then finding stores that way. I don't know, what do you think?
Oh, absolutely. Like if you find like influencers or anything that you like their fashion, usually they'll have the brand tagged. And I've actually discovered, I think it's this French brand recently, and they do these really cool, like almost like futuristic structured, but it's like futuristic, but like new metal, but like also like quite polished at the same time. Can't remember the brand, but I have a bag by them somewhere, and I bought this like really, not this chain, but like a really chunky chain. And so it's like, and it was like really reasonably priced too, but it looked very high end. And so it's like the whole world is our oyster nowadays. We can literally find like the most like obscure brands from like little corners of the globe and get them shipped to our door. So it's like, it's a nice time to live in.
Yeah, you might need to do a little digging to find the little threads to start pulling at, but then once you do, you can find that influencers thing is a really good tip, like finding people that you like their style and following them and looking for where they get their stuff.
Totally. And usually you can like just message them and ask them as well. And like, I think bands forget that you really only need like maybe like 2 to 3 stage outfits, and you can just rotate those as well. So have like your stage almost like costumes. If you're performing in theater, have those set, and then you don't have to think about it when you go on stage or when you're doing a video.
Yeah. Unless you're somebody that likes shopping, and then you might get obsessed with it a little too much.
Yes.
Curtis, do you have any questions about that?
Not on that. I was going to say we got about 4 minutes left.
Okay.
Do we have any more lightning round questions? Because if not, I could come up with a couple.
Go ahead.
Okay. So is there any truth to the rumor that Australians eat kangaroos?
We do. They're a pest. Well,
I don't.
They are a pest. Like there's so many kangaroos here, like not in the cities, obviously, like we just have normal cities like everywhere else. But like, yeah, I mean, if you go out to like the suburbs or out into the country, then yeah, like I don't eat them personally because I'm plant-based mostly. But kangaroo is actually like one of the leanest sources of meat. So apparently a lot of like gym people, like if you're into like the gym, like they eat kangaroo.
Have you eaten kangaroo, Aliyah?
I haven't.
Would you consider eating kangaroo?
Am I supposed to say this on the podcast?
Yes.
I probably would try it. Yeah. I've had like emu, I've had bison
I'd probably try
burgers. You know. I would try it.
I'd probably try it. Okay, next question I got, Australian question is, what's up with Vegemite?
Yes, it's one of those things that you have to grow up with it in order to appreciate it. Because have you tried it, Curtis? I remember.
It's fucking awful. Yes, Kurt from Fumarole sent me some. I don't know why.
I wish someone would send me some. I want to try it.
It's
I'll send you some.
I can get it in the United States.
I mean, probably. I actually have. I can't eat Vegemite anymore because it's got gluten in it. But there's like a gluten-free version of Vegemite which tastes like very similar. But how people go wrong is you got to get the ratio right. So you got to have like white bread, has to be white bread. Then you got to butter it, like load of butter, and then you just very sparingly put Vegemite on, and it just gives this like nice salty sort of cheesy taste.
It sounds like something I would really like, actually.
It's awful. It's
very umami.
I don't believe you, Curtis.
It is so bad.
I don't believe you. I have to try it for myself.
Similar to like miso soup, like if you've been to Japan.
Oh, I love miso.
Yeah.
It's
so
not very, like no, it's not. No, it's not. It's not. It's horrible. It tastes like
I'll
dirt.
send you some. Aliyah, I have my mum was visiting and she bought me a jar of Vegemite, but she bought the non-gluten-free one.
Oh.
So I'll send it to you.
Oh my god, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, and you can let me know.
I'll try it.
Be like, Curtis was right. I can tell you right now. What's another question we can ask that's Australian based, Aliyah?
What are the top fast food restaurants in Australia?
Definitely McDonald's, KFC, Hungry Jack's. I mean, we have this, I guess it's like kind of like fast food at takeaway. We've got Boost Juice, which is like healthy smoothies and juices and stuff like that. That's everywhere. What else?
Do you have a Wendy's?
I think we do have a few, but it's not popular here. Like we don't have the same range as you guys. I think it's like just donuts and like very shit coffee. Yeah.
Oh, I think that's a different restaurant than what I was talking about.
Oh, okay. Maybe we've got like a Wendy's donuts or Wendy's milkshakes or something.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Wendy's. I'm Googling Wendy's Australia right now while we talk, just to see if
it's like a McDonald's, but it's like
there's no Wendy's.
McDonald's.
Okay.
Yeah, according to this, there's a Wendy's milk bar, but there is no Wendy's burgers.
Okay, so it's definitely different. Well, I can't ask my McDonald's versus Wendy's question then.
Damn. Oh, Subway.
Almost all their Australian stores have been purchased by Hungry Jack's, so it's Hungry Jack's.
Okay. Okay, it's a Hungry Jack's or McDonald's.
Yeah. Ooh, okay. Well, I would have to say, I have to go back to like when I ate meat. I would say, like, look, you can't go past McDonald's. Like, just a Big Mac. It's so classic. It's like.
Curtis. What do you get at McDonald's, Curtis?
Yeah,
when you went to McDonald's, you don't do it anymore, I'm sure.
Well, sometimes I would have a Big Mac. I'll admit I didn't really like it though. I like the what are they called? The not double quarter pounder. What the fuck? It's kind of like a quarter pounder, but I can't remember what the name of it is.
It's not a quarter pounder with cheese?
It's not a quarter pounder with cheese.
Is it a McDouble?
No, it's called something else, and I cannot think for the life of me what the hell it's called. But it's sort of like that, but it's different.
I don't know.
I think they're actually no longer on the menu, if I'm being honest. I used to get them all the time. Teenagers, so. But in my own opinion, McDonald's is awful.
How about you, Leah?
Yeah,
I do tend to go, I feel like there's a lot more McDonald's, so I go there more often, but I prefer Wendy's. It kind of feels a little healthier.
It does.
And that's not.
Yeah.
And their fries are actually really good now.
When I eat fast food, I usually eat Wendy's because I got chicken wraps there that are grilled.
Yeah.
So that's what I'll generally eat.
So.
What else do we have for Miss Strut before we vamonos?
I think that about wraps up our questions. So Monica, is there anything else that you would like to share? Any final words?
No, like just thank you guys so much for having me. And there's still enough time. I don't know when this is going live, but actually this will be available after the EP goes live, but if you pre-order or order the EP on Bandcamp, we have this like really cool digital merch pack that you get for free. So it has like wallpapers, it has like a uncut like exclusive interview with like our producer, and it's like super interesting. He goes into like, you know, our memories from it and did little production tips and tricks. And it has like a lyric book that I've designed, and a bunch of like goodies. So yeah, like it's chock full of value. And so yeah, if you pre-order it via Bandcamp, you get that automatically. But the EP will be out absolutely everywhere. It's called Purgatory.
All right. And with
Mhm.
that, until next time, everyone, make like a bull and throw those horns up.
Yeah.